Out-of-control federal spending fueled the Republican rout in the 2010 midterm elections, and apparently the GOP was listening. The new majority proposing a plan to cut $2.5 trillion out of the federal budget over the next 10 years. But you know what? Can this happen with lawmakers on the left reluctant to cut ties with the Obama administration's big government vision? Congressman Charles Boustany is a Republican from Louisiana who sits on the powerful Ways and Means Committee. Congressman, welcome. Good to see you.
It's great to be with you.
All right. So, okay, $2.5 trillion. To me, that's a lot of money. But to the federal government, is this going to really make a big difference?
We have to do this, and it's a starting point. Will that be enough in the long run to fix our fiscal problems? No, because we're going to have to tackle entitlement spending as well to really make a dent in the fiscal gap that we have, which is basically the liabilities that we have now, all the promises that are out there that cannot be covered by current tax revenue, nor could be even covered by tax increases. This is a situation that's truly out of control. We have to get very serious about it, and we will.
So this is sort of a down payment, a first step. It doesn't solve the problem entirely, but I want folks to see what it is you're talking about, the list of reductions: instantly cutting spending to '08 levels, cut spending to '06 level by October 1st and freeze until 2021, repeal remaining stimulus funds, which sounds like a great idea, end the Fannie and Freddie bailout, and trim 15% of the federal workforce. Congressman, I don't know if you've heard or not, but those public unions have a lot of pull in Washington. Can you pull that off?
Well, nobody ever said it was going to be easy. And look, we have a job to do, and we have to get this country back on the right track. It's about restoring American competitiveness because we're in a global fight with other countries. And with the high unemployment that we have, the economic sluggishness, we have to do everything we can to get our country back on a very competitive footing. That means cutting spending now, looking at over the horizon of what we have to do with entitlement reforms to bring down spending so that it's more in line with historical revenue that comes in through taxation. And finally, comprehensive or fundamental tax reform, which is critically important, which will be my committee.
Well, there's only one group that's more difficult to deal with than public unions, and that's people who are getting Social Security payments. You say you're willing to go after entitlement spending, but how much and where?
Well, that remains to be seen, and we're going to embark on a series of extensive hearings on all these programs to understand how we can do this. That's why dealing with Social Security and Medicare in particular will be much more difficult. The first step is to cut all this discretionary spending, get this fat out of our budget. It's a down payment, as you said earlier, and it's the right first step. The entitlement issue is going to be much more difficult, but we're going to have to make difficult decisions.
Well, as a small first step here, Congressman, would you be willing to extend the period or shorten, actually, the period by which people get Social Security payments? Would you raise the retirement age?
Well, those are all things that will be looked at and under consideration, and I'm not going to commit to any one of those because I think what we need to do and what we owe to the American public is to have a very public discussion of the depth of the problem that we have and what could be done, how can we do this to actually solve it. So we need to get the American public involved on Social Security. Here's the problem, here are the potential solutions, and to see which ones look more palatable than others. It's going to be harsh medicine, but we have to do it.
Well, Dave Camp, who chairs the Ways and Means Committee, said today that, look, at the end of the day, we've so burdened our system. Here's this right here. Members of Congress from both sides of the aisle have loaded the tax code with a dizzying array of credits, deductions, exclusions, and exemptions. Here's my fear, Congressman, that we're going to go after the home mortgage deduction, that we're going to go after deductions that affect regular American people, and those that will get the break will be the people in corporate America who will get lower taxes. That the American people will pay the bill for this. Is that what you're going to do?
Well, here's what we're going to do. We're going to start with the concept of going through with really fundamental tax reform. How do we simplify the tax code? How do we lower rates across the board for everybody, broaden the base, and how do we make America competitive again? There's a lot of work to do, and I can assure you we'll be having extensive hearings examining all aspects of the tax code. And we don't want this tax code picking winners and losers. It needs to be fair. And those are the steps we're going to take. And so it's going to be a very public discussion as we go through these hearings. And I think that's very important because over the last 2 years, what you've seen is a lot of closed-door activity that's been sprung on the American people that's created uncertainty and grave difficulty across the board. What we need is a very public discussion of how we're going to do this. But this country has to do fundamental tax reform. It's critical.
Well, we'll be watching, and I guess we'll be watching to see whose ox is gored. Thanks, Congressman Boustany. Appreciate your time.
All right, thank you.
Coming up tomorrow on the Willis Report, I'll be joined by Republican